All right, good morning. Um, this morning we're going to look at, start our unit on biographies, and we're going to look at a variety of biographies related to different poets, starting with The River of Words, the story of William Carlos Williams. And I'm going to read through the book with you. You can follow along on the screen. I only have one copy of this book. And then we're going to read through it once, just straight through, and then I'm going to go back through and point out for your gist in Google Classroom. You're going to open Lesson 1, Unit 3, Lesson 1, Getting the Gist of a Biography, and you're going to open that and fill out Part 1 of this. I'll show you where that ends, and then you're going to summarize it, what the text is mostly about. But let's go ahead and get started. A River of Words, the story of William Carlos Williams, written by Jen Bryant, illustrated by Melissa Sweet. There's a couple of familiar poems. The Red Wheelbarrow, we remember that one from Love That Dog, and then Metric Figure. Also, these are poems by William Carlos Williams. All right, A River of Words, the story of William Carlos Williams. When I was younger, it was plain to me I must make something of myself. William Carlos Williams, Pastoral. Like the other boys in Rutherford, New Jersey, William Williams loved to play baseball and to race his friends up and down the street. But when the other boys went inside, Willie stayed outside, climbing over the fence. In his backyard, he wandered alone through the woods and fields. In those days, just beyond town, there were still many wild places for Willie to explore. My Willie has sharp eyes. He notices everything, his mother told the neighbors. And it was true. As he walked through the high grasses and along the soft dirt paths, Willie watched everything. When he grew tired, he stretched out beside the Passaic River. Gurgle, gurgle, swish, swish, swoosh, gurgle, gurgle. The water went slipping and sliding over the smooth rocks, then poured in a torrent over the falls, then quieted again below. The river's music both excited and soothed Willie. Sometimes he listened to its perfect tune. He fell asleep. So that's the end of part 1, when you get to the gist form to fill out. As Willie grew older, there was less time to wander through the woods and fields, or to nap by the river. In high school, Willie had classes and track practice and lots of homework. Willie is always in a hurry, his mother told the neighbors, and it was true. But when Mr. Abbott read poetry to Willie's English class, Willie did not feel hurried. The gentle sounds and shifting rhythms of the poems were like the music of the river. As the teacher read each line, Willie closed his eyes and let them make pictures in his mind. Sounds like imagery. One night, alone in his room, Willie began to write his own poems. At first, he imitated the famous English writers he had learned about in school. He counted the beats in each line and made the endings rhyme. The archer is awake, the swan is flying, gold against blue, an arrow is lying. Poetry suited Willie. Every night he looked forward to sitting at his desk and writing a few new lines. But after a while he grew frustrated. He had pictures in his mind that didn't fit exactly into steady rhythms or rhymes. I have never seen a swan or an archer, Willie thought. I want to write about ordinary things. Plums, wheelbarrows and weeds, fire engines, children and trees. Things I see when I walk down the street or look out my window. He says, I will write of leaves and the moon and the treetops. So Willie tried writing a new way. Instead of counting the beats or making the end words rhyme, he let each poem find its own special shape on the page. There is a bird in the poplars. It is the sun. The leaves are little yellow fish swimming in the river. There's an example of his poetry being posted. Now, when he wrote poems, he felt as free as the Passaic River as it rushed to the falls. Willie's notebooks filled up one after another. My boy is a good writer, his mother said, and it was true. Unfortunately, no one paid much money for poetry, and Willie needed to earn a living. That is the end of part 2. So another summary or main idea of the gist there. And here's some of his poems. The little sparrows hop ingeniously about the pavement, quarreling with sharp voices over things that interest them, Willie's mother had told him stories about her older brother Carlos, who was a doctor. When our father died, she told Willie, Carlos' salary provided for our whole family. Willie liked the idea of healing people and of providing for a family, but could he do both and still write poetry? Here's some more. Dreams are not a bad thing. I am moved to write poetry. So much depends upon labor. At the age of 19, Willie went off to study medicine at the university, where he met Ezra Pound, Hilda Doolittle, and Charles Demuth. Ezra and H.D. were studying literature, while Charlie studied painting. The friends spent many afternoons together discussing books, music, and art. The harder Willie's medical training became, the more he enjoyed the time he spent with them. Among the rain and lights, I saw the figure, gold, on a red fire truck moving, tense, unheeded to gong clangs, siren howls, and wheels rumbling through the dark city. When he graduated, he returned to Rutherford and hung his sign, William C. Williams, M.D., Family Medicine. Every morning, Dr. Willie Williams filled his black bag with medicines and instruments and drove off to visit patients in their homes. Every afternoon, he returned to his office where more patients waited. And that's the end of part 3. Some more of his poetry. This is a letter. They call me and I go. The door opens, I smile, enter. All day he delivered babies, healed hurts and bruises, set broken bones, and wrote prescriptions for coughs and fevers. Dr. Williams is the busiest man in town, said the neighbors, and it was true. But no matter how many babies he delivered, no matter how many sick people he cured, Willie could not stop writing poems. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow. On his prescription pads, he scribbled a few lines whenever and wherever he could. In those precious times, the rhythm of the river he had rested beside as a child seemed to guide him, like the water that sometimes ran slow, smooth, and steady, and other times came rushing in a hurried flood. Willie's lines flowed across the page. After his long doctor's day, Willie climbed to the attic where he kept a lamp and a desk filled with letters from his artist friends and notes he'd made about things he'd heard, seen, or done. As the rest of Rutherford put out its lights, Willie took out his pen and his notes. He sat down and looked at the words. So he just continued working on his poetry and shaped them into poems. The moon, the dried weeds, 7 feet tall, the dark dried weed sticks and the Pleiades. make a part of the night, a red lace on a blue milky sky, right by a small lamp. The Pleiades are almost nameless, and the moon is tilted and half gone. So, again, just an example of some of his poetry and then some interesting information about him. So, what you're going to do now is open up the gist. Make sure it says Unit 3, Lesson 1, Getting the Gist of a Biography. And then you can go back and listen to this and then summarize or write the main idea for Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4, which is Part 4 is from the end of Part 3 to the end of the book. All right, and if you need help, I'll be glad to help you. Thanks.